Hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble Academy Review number 11. Didn't think we would make it this far, but we have made it to number 11 quite incredibly. Tonight I'm joined by Alan. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, you?
Aye, mate, all good. Enjoying the sunshine, so I can't complain. Right, let's get right into the action. There's quite a lot to discuss for our wee half an hour fill-in this time. We'll start off with Stirling Uni. A very comfortable 5-0 victory. Goals for Charlie McCann, Charlie Lindsay, Alex Lowry, and a double from Robbie McCrorie. What did you make of the performance?
Just professional. It wasn't the most difficult game. We could have. It struck me as the type of game we could have made it more difficult if we didn't come out with the right attitude. But we came out. We got our goals. We didn't make life difficult. We didn't give them any chances to make life difficult for us. So all around professional, because that's the type of games that we're out. You know, there's going to be we'll find difficult for time to time, but are winnable for a team of our standard. And that struck me as that type of game. Come out, do the job, don't switch off, don't fall asleep, and see the game out. And I know that sounds daft, winning 5-0 and seeing a game out, but you know you've got to keep these clean sheets and stop teams from pressing you and stop teams from having the ball. And that's certainly what I took away from the Stirling game.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things, you know, I think when we spoke to Derek in the last pod, when we were talking about these three particular games, I think the emphasis was on us to score goals and to score quite a few goals. Mm-hmm. And obviously against Stirling Uni, we've won 5-0. In the end, as you say, it was all very comfortable. Stirling Uni didn't really lay a glove on us, in all honesty. I mean, I know obviously Chris McKee came off that day with a hamstring injury, and he's obviously still out at the moment. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But then somebody like Robbie McCrorie comes on the pitch, who's, I mean, he's basically still an under-18 player, but he has played quite a lot of B-team football this year, and he scores a double. So when somebody drops out, you've got somebody coming in who then makes an impact straight away, and I think that's been one of the important things for me this season, and that, you know, the guys for the 18s have stepped up and did well, whether it's been like sort of Mackenzie Strachan, whether it's been Robbie McCrorie, and I think that's been really, really important for me. I think it's important that we keep pushing these lads, because the moment that it's becoming too easy at 18s level, you've got to make that step up. And Robbie's always scored goals, and the fact that he can do it at B-team level now is really, really good for me. And it's something moving forward that we want to see more of, even with the new addition of Juan Alegria. We'll move on to the Edinburgh Uni game. I know you weren't at that, so I'll just kind of chat about that for a couple of minutes. It probably wasn't our best performance this season, to be honest. We were pretty sloppy in the first half. I didn't feel like we really kind of cut them open that many times. It was Lewis McKinnon that actually opened the scoring that day, which was a very rare moment for Lewis. The big man doesn't score many. In the second half, we showed a little bit more, and we obviously managed to score two late on goals, Alex Lowry and Cole McKinnon. But I think, in all honesty, that'll be one of those games that there'll be a slight kind of tinge of disappointment that maybe we didn't do more in the game, like we didn't create more chances, we weren't more clinical. But then I suppose maybe it's just us kind of having such high expectations for these lads that we want them to run up scores every single game. But we know that's not always realistic. But see, when you look at like sort of Rangers playing against the uni teams, is there anything that you're looking for because you know that Rangers are going to have a lot of control within the game, or is it just a matter of going and like sort of doing the professional job which is beating them?
I think against these teams, it's doing the professional job. One thing that struck me in the games that I've seen is there's different standards in the Lowland League. There's teams that are knocking on the door of the senior setup. There's teams that are, if they have the ambition and the money, they could probably knock on the door. Right now, they're probably just very good junior teams. Yeah. And there's teams that are way out their depth. So when we're playing the teams that are way out their depth, it's about being professional. You know, for me, being professional, showing that professionalism, winning the game comfortably. But as I said, not giving teams opportunities. They'll all present something different. You know, the university teams, you know, their players may be a bit fitter. They're playing football or certainly doing physical activity a lot more than some of the other teams whose players might be coming through a hard day's graft and then playing a game of football. So you expect them to be a little bit fitter. and can probably match us for running for more than the usual 60 minutes that we've seen, maybe 70, 80 minutes in some cases. So it's about seeing that out as well and not switching off to that and being aware that, yeah, okay, we're playing Stirling University or Edinburgh University, but they can still pose a threat, and every team poses a threat somewhere, apart from possibly Vale Leithen. But most teams will pose a threat at some point, and we've got to stay switched on to that. Doesn't matter if we're 1-0 up, 2-0 up, or 5-0 up.
No, I mean, I think that's a very valid point. Right, we'll move on to Vale Leithen. Yeah, look, there's some games in your lifetime that you watch and things don't really shock you, and I think that was like the Vale Leithen game. I know that outside the ground, some of the lads were kind of chatting about this could be double figures, and I know we've obviously got close to that already this season in the Gretna game, but when I seen the team sheet and they had one outfield substitute, and literally that was the bench, that's not a great start to the game, is it, when you've got one outfield substitute to come on if there's ever any problems during the game. So it probably wasn't a huge surprise that Rangers run out 9-0 winners. Look, I mean, without going too in depth into the game, it's clearly, if you break that down as a club like Rangers, I'm not too sure how much you take out of that game in the overall scheme of things. Vale Leithen are that club you're talking about, sitting down the bottom of the league. They've not even picked up a point this year, I don't believe. I think they've only scored like 2 or 3 goals. They've conceded a substantial amount of goals. I think on average they're losing like 5-6 goals a game. So clearly, where they're going and where some of the other teams in the Lowland League going are completely different. I suppose the one thing that we can talk about mainly was that Juan Alegría made his Rangers debut. Rangers obviously confirmed the transfer a couple of days prior to the match, and he came on and took his 2 goals. What did you make of his wee cameo when he came off the bench?
Brilliant. I think I answered the question on Twitter at one point. Somebody asked, or it might have been our group chat actually, somebody says Allegri looks really good. He did, but it would be difficult not to look good in that kind of game.
Yeah.
He came on, I think he played half an hour, 25 minutes, got his 2 goals. He, that was our first time seeing him. A lot of people wouldn't have seen him yet. So for anybody watching, please don't think he's another Morelos, because he's not. He certainly doesn't look as physical, but he's got the legs. He's a big lad. It's hard to believe he's still a teenager, because he does look like a senior player. He's got senior experience. He's got international experience at under 18s level, I think it is. So he'll bring that. He got his goals. He looked hungry for more. He took his goals well. I'd be very surprised to see him in the B team for the remainder of the season. I think he's going to be too good for that level. He'll probably be there, as we spoke about, maybe up to Christmas time, and then we'll look to see how else we can develop him beyond that, and get him ready for first team football. For the rest of the lads, as you said, Vale Leithen, they're way out their depth in that division, unfortunately. Without trying to sound disrespectful to them, they were a glorified pub team. There's a couple of players who I thought, looking at them, would struggle to last the 90 minutes. So I expected that type of performance. I expected Alegría to come off the bench and get a couple of goals. And I expected us to hammer their goal. Maybe not score as many goals, because, keeper can make saves, you can hit posts, you can put it over the bar. But I expected lots of shots on goal in that game, and it didn't disappoint from a Rangers point of view. And again, that's what was expected from the lads on the day, and they delivered that. And you can't ask for any more than that, regardless of who the opposition is. If they deliver exactly what's expected of them, then we can't. There's no complaints here whatsoever. I went home very happy with the result and the performance.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's that kind of fine line between winning a game of football and being happy. Because at the end of the day, it's a great day for Ross McCausland. He suffered a lot with injury recently. So for him to come in and get his hat-trick, it's great for him personally. Aaron Lyle scored a couple of goals. One of them was an absolute belter. Obviously managed to score 2. Tony Weston with another goal. It just seems to become normal every game that Tony kind of jumps in with a goal. And big Lewis McKinnon scored again, twice in 2 games for the big Northern Irish centre-half. So, yeah, I think in the overall scheme of things, when you look back at the 3 games, it's 3 clean sheets, which I think most of us would have expected, if I'm totally honest. We've scored 17 goals, which is fairly good going. And it's 9 points on the board. I mean, that's all we can do. We can only beat what's in front of us. I know it's one of those old cliches that people probably think, that's just nonsense, but it is. And as you said earlier on, it's nothing disrespectful towards Vale leaving, but they don't look like a team that's going to win a lot of games this year. They don't look like a team that's probably going to score that many goals. And it must be tough for those guys to roll out every week and get beat and not even get a shot on target in some games. It must be really, really tough for these guys.
Yeah, their big centre forward. I think we could count on one hand the amount of times he touched the ball. Yeah. It must have been a frustrating afternoon for him up top, and I'm pretty sure he was glad when the referee decided not to play. His and their goalkeeper would have been glad when the referee decided to forgo any injury time and just blow the whistle back on the 90 minutes.
No, and I think for some of the guys after the game, it's probably just a matter of thinking, as you pointed out a couple of times, it's the professional side of the game. You won the game, another clean sheet. A couple of guys managed to bag some goals. You know, we've got the international break now, which is good for some of the players. Who'll be away with Scotland, be away with Northern Ireland. So that's really good for these guys. We'll just kind of step ahead a little bit. Next up for Rangers, Bonnyrigg Rose. They've obviously been the team that's been very impressive so far this year in the Lowland League, sitting top. Then we've got Ayr United in the Cup. The SPFL Trust Cup. It's no longer the Challenge Cup. And Gallifrey, yet again, a team that's done reasonably well this year. What's the kind of expectation in those 3 games? Do you think that Rangers can win all 3? Or do you think that these are 3 games that we're going to be really tested in?
I think we'll be tested, but I don't think there's any reason we can't win them. Right. I think, for any Rangers fans that haven't seen the B team yet, or are looking on Twitter and Facebook and seeing the final scores and seeing we're hammering some of these teams, don't get too comfortable and think that we're going to end up running away with this league, because there's tougher games to come, and this is them starting to come now. Bonnyrigg Rose will fancy themselves strongly to win the league. Ayr United, that's going to be a massive challenge. I'm glad that's at Dumbarton. I'm looking forward to it. I'm checking regularly. I know it's still a fortnight away, but I'm checking regularly to see when the tickets go on sale for the Tuesday night game there, because that's going to be a massive challenge for them. That's, in terms of leagues, I mean, there's 30 places between us and them in the league set up. So that's a massive challenge for the lads to play a senior team like that, and a decent senior team as well. Ayr United are no mugs, so it's we might not come away with exactly what we want for these games, but I think there's no reason that we can't. If we've got a strong team, we get players back, as you mentioned. There's been a couple of players back for injury. McCausland, it was great to see him get some minutes in his legs. If we can get them fit and have a strong pool of players to select from, there's absolutely no reason that we can't win these 3 games. And I said in the last Academy pod that I've done, there's absolutely no reason we can't try and kick on and win this league. It may not be the primary objective for the season, but if we win the tough games like this coming up, and we've already won tough games, I thought Spartans in particular was a tough game. All right, we lost to Civil Service Strollers. Ironically, I don't think they're the best team we've played so far this season, but they were the one team we've lost to. So there's tougher games coming up, but if we win these games, and there's no reason we can't, it could be a really successful season. And as I say, a good run in the SPFL Trust trophy, it's possible, and I think it'll start to attract a lot of interest. I'm expecting a big crowd at the Ayr United game, and I think if we can put Ayr United out and move further into the cup competition, a lot of Bears who have been looking at the B team and dipping in and out, seeing how the first team are going, it's going to encourage them to go along, and I think that's fantastic for the young lads in the B team as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Bonnyrigg Rose game is going to be interesting. They're clearly a team that's playing with a lot of confidence. They've won a lot of games so far this season, and the fact they're sitting ahead of us in the table shows that they're a good team. It's obviously an away game. They always seem to have a decent sort of crowd as well. So it might be the first time where the boys have been away from home, and there's maybe more home fans than there is away fans. Mm-hmm. So that'll be an interesting one to see how the lads cope with that. Ayr United, it depends what Ayr United turns up. If it's their strongest 11, then clearly that's going to be a real test. a good team in the Championship. They've obviously got some ex-Rangers players. They've got a current Rangers loanee there in James Maxwell, who will not be allowed to play, obviously. But if they show up with their strongest 11, I think that's as good a test as we'll get this season. I do think Ayr are still a very good team. And yet again, like after that, you've got Gallifrey away. Yet again, not an easy game. And I think that these 3 games will probably tell us a lot about the squad and about where we're going to finish this season. Because if we can come away from those 3 games with 3 victories, obviously you're into the next round of the Cup, you've knocked out Championship opposition, you beat the team that's top of the league, and you've beat the team that's fairly well up the league as well. So for me, it's a massive couple of weeks for the players. And obviously, with the draw recently for the UEFA Youth League that we've been drawn against Hammarby of Sweden, I think the home game for that one is the 29th of September. And it's probably going to be played at Partick Thistle's ground. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but it looks like that could be the case. So that'll be another really great tie for the lads. And some exciting games coming up. And I hope that more people come along to the B team games and watch these lads play, because there is some genuine excitement around some of the talent that's coming through. We'll just kind of switch slightly away from the B team at the moment, but it is still to do with the academy. Robby McCrorie, obviously because of the COVID issues at the club, and he's pretty much been kind of thrown in at the deep end, having to go to Armenia and play in that extreme heat, and then obviously come back and playing the Old Firm game. What did you make of Robbie? Obviously a kid that's gone through the academy, that's done his loan spells, you know, sort of taking his chance when it was given to him.
Absolutely fantastic. As you said, he's came through the loan spells. There was a couple of Rangers fans that I knew that I've spoke to who were a wee bit nervous about McCrorie going in, because he had a bit of a ropey spell at Livingston. But I had faith in him. I like Robby McCrorie for what I've seen of him. I think the loan spell's done him well, and he had to start somewhere. We saw it with McGregor. I think it was it Dunfermline or St Johnstone? McGregor was out on loan as well when he was his age. Yeah. Was it both? So these lads, they've got to start somewhere, and they come into the first team. And when you're a third choice goalkeeper, your chances are very, very limited. Because the chances of both first and second choice goalkeepers being out injured are slim to none. But in the times we live in, COVID took them both out by the looks of it. And suddenly McCrorie, who probably thought he would be watching the game from the East Enclosure with the rest of the first team, was suddenly thrown in to these 2 massive games for us. And we said it for weeks. We said it in the pods, the main pods as well during the week. Although it's only August, it was the biggest week of our season. And McCrorie handled that excellently. He never had a great deal to do against Alashkert. He took a knock well. In my opinion, it could have, that could have done his confidence. It could have made him a bit nervy about going out and meeting the ball. It didn't. He took that challenge head on. Against Celtic, he had a couple of saves to make, but nothing that I thought was extremely dangerous to him. He organised his defence well. He spoke to them well. He communicated all the way throughout the game. I sat in the Copeland rear, so I was watching him at times and watching how he communicated, and made sure his point got across. And that's against seasoned professionals who have been in the first team and are 10 years, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years older than him, and he wasn't afraid to get his point across. So he's confident in that respect as well. So I had no problems with him coming into the team whatsoever, and I'm more than happy with the 2 clean sheets. And hopefully he'll get other opportunities. I know that means that we might not see McGregor or McLaughlin that much if McCrorie does get his opportunities, but if we really want to test this lad to see if we've got a ready-made replacement for McGregor, then he's going to have to get game time, and I think he will. I think he's earned the right to get some game time with his performances against Alashkert and Celtic.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've obviously seen a wee bit of Robbie over the years. He's obviously kind of did the hard yards. He went to Berwick Rangers, and then he's done a couple of spells in the Championship. I think it was with Morton and Queen of the South. Mm-hmm. And then he's obviously had these kind of 2 spells at Livingston. I mean, we're talking about a kid that's still only 23, and in goalkeeping terms, that's still pretty young. There's obviously the odd goalkeeper out there, like sort of Donnarumma, who at like 18 years old is already like a monster, basically, and now he's at PSG. For most other goalkeepers, they tend to be in their early 20s when they make that breakthrough. like to become the first choice goalkeeper. I mean, I think Allan was round about 23, 24. So for Robbie, maybe it was just kind of one of those things where a little bit of fate kicked in and he was in that opportunity. As you say, like against Alashkert, you could have probably got the sun lounger out at times because there really wasn't much to do. But against Celtic, it's not just about making the saves. It's about like sort of coping with the noise, knowing where everything is in front of you, making sure that your defence in front of you is solid. And like the 2 or 3 saves that you had to make, they were good saves. He never looked like he was nervous. His kicking was good. His handling was good. So for me, I think people will start to look at Robbie slightly differently now, in terms of the lad, as you say, that was the third choice goalkeeper that might not get much game time this year. People will look at the 2 games and think, we can trust Robbie now. If there is an injury to Allan and maybe like John is suspended or whatever happens further down the line this season, if Robbie has to come in, I don't think there'll be as much nervousness as there was obviously prior to these 2 games, which I think for Robbie's good because it'll make him feel more confident. And when you walk into the ground, when there's a nervous feeling in the stadium. Whereas now I don't think there will be with Robbie, and I think that can only be good moving forward. Okay, we'll quickly kind of come on to Nathan Patterson, yet again another guy who has been at the academy, who's been promoted into the first team. The talk of Everton making those bids of 5 million and 8 million, is that a good sign for the academy that we are, like working with these lads, developing them, helping them get into the first team? Once they get into the first team, they're pushing for that first team spot. Is that what our academy is all about, to develop these kind of players who can then maybe further down the line go for a bigger fee?
I think it has to be. I think we're at a stage just as a club just now where we need to, at some point, we're going to be looking to sell players on and making profit, and that's going to include young players, because trading players is part of the game. It's a massive part of the game of football now, and I think that it's a great sign for the academy that we've got Patterson there and he's attracting that kind of interest, because for years gone by, the biggest criticisms, when Auchenhow was built, and it was Murray Park to start with, and it was going to focus on youth development. One of the biggest criticisms we had of the place as Rangers fans was that we weren't producing young talent. And I understand that at Rangers, young talent don't get time to settle into the team. They need to hit the ground running. And players that couldn't do that, they were moved on quickly, but they were moved on quietly as well, and it was for very little fanfare and very little money, if anything. But the fact that Patterson's came into the team, he's settled into the team really quickly last season. Again, like McCrorie, he's took his opportunities really well, and he's attracting interest. He's been involved in the Scotland setup, the international setup, which is fantastic for him, for his development and to build his profile. I hope that he's a Rangers player for many more years to come. But you understand that if a team like Everton are coming in, a Premier League team, and offering big money to him, big wages to him, you can understand why he might be interested in that. And at the end of the day, as I said, we're a business. We're at a stage where we're going to have to sell players to make profit. And if somebody's coming in with £8, £9, £10 million for a player that's played 20 games for the first team, it's hard to ignore that kind of money. But hopefully we will. Hopefully we will be able to fight it off, because I hope he's around for a long time. And it gives the rest of the young players something to look at and see. Yeah, Patterson's doing well for himself. Okay, I might not make it at Rangers, but if I stick in with the Rangers youth setup here, I could get a big move like he's been offered. I'm going to have a great career in football. It might not be here, but I can have a great career in football and play at the very highest level. So it encourages them to dig deep and work that bit harder as well. So I think it's great for the club. It's great for Patterson. It's great for the rest of the youth players, and it helps build on the reputation of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I think for me, Nathan has been a real standout when he's come into the first team. He's looked so comfortable. He's a marauding fullback, very much in the mould of our captain. He loves to get forward. He loves to get into the box. He's capable of scoring goals. He's very good at getting into really dangerous positions. And I think even just going back to the B team quickly, what will help these guys this season is anybody can come and watch the B team. So if there's managers that League One level, whether it's the Championship, maybe it's other teams in the Prem, it's a lot easier now to see these young players at Rangers. In the past, it wasn't always easy to sort of come to the reserve games and stuff like that because they were at awkward times during the day. But for some managers now, it's easy to say to maybe one of their coaches or one of their scouts, do you want to go and take in that Rangers B team game? Because we quite like, like a Robbie Fraser, or we quite like Cole McKinnon, maybe try and take him in loan. I think things like that just make it easier. And I think for the boys moving forward, when they look at somebody like Leithen, it should be a real spur. I mean, Leithen probably wasn't what you would have considered a standout 3 or 4 years ago. You wouldn't have picked him above some other players. But look at him now. He's in the first team. Whenever James Tavernier is rested or he's injured, Nathan's straight in that team. And there's no fear when Nathan comes into the team. He's already played big European games. He's already played in Old Firm games. So there's absolutely no fear on that. And I think that's great. Just to finish up, we were going to talk a little bit about, obviously, the Alashkert game away. Clearly, we were kind of down to the kind of bare bones by that point. But what type of experience was it for guys like Cole McKinnon and Aaron Lyle and Alex Lowry and guys like how good was that for those kind of guys, Jay Hogarth, just to travel with the first team, be part of that, and to kind of know what it's like to be in that environment and in a tough away European game?
Yeah, it'll have done them the world of good. They'll have, as young men, they'll have seen probably a part of the world they'll have never seen before, or wouldn't see if they weren't, played football. But to go away with the first team, be involved in that setup, how the team set up for what was a big European tie for us. And I think it was probably good as well that there was a group of them went. Sometimes if a player gets promoted for a youth team or a reserve team into the first team, they might not know people quite as well. And they might be a bit shyer, a bit more reserved, and not really take part in the group discussions. Yeah, they take part in training, but they don't really take part in the group, and they don't feel part of the group. So for them to go, half a dozen of them go together and be involved in that setup, it'll have been good for them. They'll have felt a lot more comfortable and a lot more relaxed.
No, I was just going to say quickly, I think you're absolutely spot on. When there's a group of guys like that who all know each other, who've played in the same team as each other for a sustained period of time, it's easier to go away, isn't it? If you're like a lone kind of youth player and you're getting into the 15 squad like that and going away, it's maybe not that easy.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah, of course it can be. Yeah. But the fact there was like 5 or 6 of those lads on that trip, it must be phenomenal. And sort of confidence must be high. I know they'll obviously understand that some of that's due to COVID and that there's other reasons behind them being there potentially. But it's the fact that they're there. It's the fact that they were part of the group that made it through to the group stages. And I'm sure we will see some of these boys on the bench in the European games because clearly we don't have the biggest of European squads. And COVID's not exactly disappearing anywhere. So it does mean that obviously over the course of this season, whether it's the league or whether it's the cup competitions or in Europe, there is a real chance for these guys to kind of soak in that atmosphere, And I think moving forward for all the players, just keep performing well. Just keep showing up well in the B team games. If these lads can play well against Bonnyrigg, against Ayr, against Gala, yet again, it could be another 2 wins in the league and you're through to the next round of the cup and the confidence is high and I'm sure the manager will get reports back about who's playing well, etc. And it might mean that they end up sitting on the bench in one of these massive games. And to me, that's what it's got to be about. And then you obviously push yourself further to becoming a first-team player. Has anybody stood out for you in the games you've watched so far this season?
I think, as I said before, there's been a few that have really impressed me. Most of them have really impressed me. I've never came away from a game, even when we get beat against civil service strollers, I've never came away feeling disappointed or like it wasn't a good performance. Robbie Ewer, I think I'm excited by him. Charlie Lindsay looks the experienced player that he is. He's came from a good setup to us. Cole McKinnon's an exciting player, I think. We obviously know about Leon King, Jay Hogarth. It's hard to pinpoint, and I look forward to seeing Allegria a lot more in the very near future. I'll be really interested to see him up against a senior setup like Ayr United. Tony Weston's another one. I could go on. I can't pinpoint one player that I think. Alex Lowry. I can't pinpoint one player that I think he is going to be the standout player for me for this season and might expect him to see him in the first team at some point, because there's so many of them that have got the ability to do it. And as you said, COVID's not going away, so okay, some of these lads might not have been involved in the last couple of weeks because their positions were well covered by senior players. But next week, it could be the central defenders that are wiped out with COVID, and we'll have to bring in guys like, recall guys like Leon King. So anything can happen. It's so unpredictable at the minute. So any of these guys at any point could get called up to the first team, so they're going to have to keep impressing the way they have been in the last few weeks.
Right, guys, that pretty much kind of cracks it up for us. We think we're kind of 30-minute mark, so we're not going to bore you any longer. There's a lot more to talk about this season. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to us talk about the Stirling Uni, Edinburgh Uni, and the Vale leaving game. If you've got any other thoughts on guys like Nathan Patterson and Robby McCrorie, or anything we've said during the pod, just drop us a wee message. We can obviously get back to you. Thanks very much. All being well, we'll have another pod after those 3 games that we mentioned earlier: Bonnyrigg Rose, Ayr United, and Gallifrey. So we'll check us in, and thanks very much, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you very soon.